walk miles in an obvious funk. Thoughts deep, boys steeped in the depths that he sunk. Big stress, depressed in the middle of fall. Sky gray, I late in the thick of it all. I wonder, how long can a human survive just staying alive or carrying the rest of the tribe? Waiting for the day to arrive or struggling dies, and I be doing way, way more than getting by. So why? Cop myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, cop myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Realize life is so much more than just living a day. Every day I can sit and reflect and breathe and connect to myself and know that I've been given. See, giving up is not an option. So when I'm looking at gray skies, I'll be adopting a new way to deal with a test. Lord, relieve me of stress, the ring be looking like what blessings dropping. And so I got myself a cup of coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Coffee, sipping water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, here we go. Yeah, let's do this. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. In times of test, let no harm beset me, oh my Lord, oh my Lord.
Oh, a little bit of hockey there for us. And speaking of hockey, Canada. As Joey just said, happy Thanksgiving to the Canadian people out there. We have a lot of Canadian people in our group, and it's no wonder because they don't like Trump either. Yes, indeed, this is Divided We Stand. We're on Facebook and we are on YouTube. We ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's not an extremely popular channel, but we hold our own, and we ask that you become a member. We're not monetized, which means, number one, we don't want any of your money, and number two, you don't have to worry about ads. None of it. Google doesn't like people like us. We're freeloaders, so supposedly, something like that. And then, of course, we are on Facebook, and that is a popular page. We are quickly approaching 1,600 members. We're very popular there and getting more popular. Even though we're a private group, it's been really picking up the last couple of weeks because we've approved quite a few people. And a few people haven't made it because when you look at their profiles, you see that they were Trumpers trying to get in. Only a few of those. You had to I think one or two. I know for sure one this week, but I think two we had to say no to. And if you're just trying to sell something, don't expect to be approved. Dave and I aren't into that shit. And like myself, Dave and I don't trust anybody in a suit, so don't even try it. So, and speaking of Dave from Arlington, Virginia, how
Is that where I am?
are you?
I always forget. Yeah, I am actually here. A lot of times I'm other places. Well, Brian, how are you? That's the important question.
I think I am generally okay, Dave, but just as negative as ever concerning our government and our country. But personally, I'm okay. But there's this foreboding feeling that everything that is nice is not going to be nice. Just like, as we get older, we
Right.
eventually have to face the realities of our mortality and such. So, yeah, how about you?
Well, yeah, I would say, let's see, what would I say? Well, I am a little bit excited as all this political stuff I've been working on is coming this week, will be starting to be released, and that's kind of neat. It's a lot of planning, which was fun. I like that. A lot of research. That's something I really enjoy. A lot of investigation. And I got a lot of help from AI. Now, we're not going to talk about AI much tonight, but at some point it's around, it's there. And there are basically two camps, three camps actually. Those who think it's horrible to use
Right.
because it's cheating or whatever. Those who fear it because they watched either the Colossus, the Forbin Project, or the Terminator. And then there's a group that I fall into that I think it's here. It's like anything else. You can use it properly or improperly. It's up to the use. And I think the one thing that I would say, if I want to say exonerates me from, falsifying or saying I'm anything, I always acknowledge that I used AI for any project that I use AI in.
Right.
But that's there. Well, let's get back to our regular beginning. And
Right.
you know what, Brian? It is, seriously, and I think people can understand this. For a while now, we've decided, and I think it's a good way to go, that I pick from the wealth of possibilities 3 items that really show how Trump is destroying our democracy.
Hmm.
And then Brian and I talk about them. Now, it gets a little bit harder because Trump is doing a little bit more each week to do that. But I have 3 here. So let me throw them out to you. And then, Brian, you, as you always do, you pick the one you want to start
Right.
with. So, in no particular order, for the first time in American history, there is an offer for a foreign government to establish an air base on American soil. Okay, so that's one thing that Trump was involved this week. Another, he continues and stepped up a little bit, floating the idea of using the Insurrection Act. I think that's something that should concern all of us, and it's something that a lot of people don't understand. And the thing is, it's not about when you say they don't understand. It's not about the fact that they're stupid or even ignorant. It's the fact that government is somewhat difficult to understand. And for some of us, it's been a long time since we've had civics. And I have to be honest with you, I wasn't aware of the Insurrection Act till maybe 10 years ago or so. I mean, it's just something that didn't come in because
It wasn't
it's a
necessary.
dated. Yeah, exactly. You just said it. So, and then let's kind of combine some things here, if you're okay. I call it just undermining and weaponizing. So he continues to undermine the courts. And not by either by verbally assaulting them or having one of his stooges verbally assault them,
Right.
or just ignoring what they say. And then, of course, with the weaponizing the DOJ, we've now seen a second case, and there is talk that John Bolton will be this week.
Right.
They will bring an indictment against John Bolton. Now, now, what do these people share in common? One simple thing. Trump views them as an enemy. So where do you want to start tonight, Brian? Which one?
I think of all the 3, and all of them are extremely important. I think I'm going to go for number 2, the Insurrection Act first.
Okay, so what does that mean to you? And so why should people
Okay,
fear it?
I'm just an average American, but my idea is basically when you have an enemy from within, you have to take measures to do what you have to do. And if there is a quote unquote insurrection like we had on January 6th, that it gives the right for the government to do, take very, very strong measures with the military. That's my general understanding
And
of it.
that's really all you need to understand. I mean, that keeps it simple. Now, so
I didn't
why
realize Portland was such a problem.
Well, of course, that's where it's coming from. Actually, it's a multifaceted thing. You could say that the Insurrection Act is being tested. I think
Yes.
that's what we're seeing. In other words, it's not there yet, but will we be ready? It's preparatory for what Trump wants to do. There's no question. And basically, what the Insurrection Act does is it turns complete and ultimate power over to the President of the United States. One term that's used a lot, and this is something that people should need to hear about, is called the plenary executive. And what that means is what he says or what she says is ultimate and final. So you do not have a Congress approving. You do not have Supreme Court overriding. So, of course, if there were an insurrection, as you pointed out, Brian, there was an insurrection on January 6th, but because it was an insurrection in Trump's favor, Trump now is looking at it as, oh, I pardoned them because it wasn't an insurrection. So his definition of insurrection is really interesting if you could try to parse it.
No, in other words, if you're a Democrat and you voted against them, you're an insurrectionist.
There you are. It's very simple.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Now, I don't think there's any court under heaven or above hell, if there were such things, that would find that definition reasonable or even legal. But it doesn't matter, because what we have, and it ties into the other things, is that Trump is deciding who a good American is and who a bad American is. And a good American is one that believes and follows Donald Trump. That's his definition of a good American. A bad American is anyone who doesn't do it. Now, what I find interesting, Brian, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Where do you think Trump stands on the people that don't take a side at all? Where do you think he stands with that? I don't know, but do you think it concerns him? Do you think with his ego,
I
how
think
can't you
that
love me? Or,
to him, I mean, look, I'm going to put my mind in the mind of a narcissist again. I've got to think like him. I only care about myself. I'm selfish. I only am worried about threats. And if somebody's not a threat, it's kind of like being in a school. I mean, you know that there are bullies. But there are certain kids, for example, I mean, and they'll pick on anybody who's weak, of course, a bully.
Right.
But I've seen it in schools where a lot of kids who don't like being around a lot of people, they have, I don't know, they have like a fear of like enclosed spaces
Right.
with people. And some of these kids just purposely kind of like zone out for 4 years in high school. There aren't many of them, but they stay away from, they try to stay away from people. And just like we would try to stay away from a crowd or whatever. And I'm not saying you'd be agoraphobic or anything like that. It's just, you're trying to avoid. So I think that he being a narcissist would probably take the opinion that they are harmless as long as they don't attack him, that it's just they don't exist. His concern to me is simply those people who were a threat to him. And to him, somebody like Adam Schiff, somebody like Nancy Pelosi, these are all people he would like to put, and especially John Bolton, because he was working with him. He'll give credit to people like Roger Stone and Michael Flynn, and we've not talked about Michael Flynn in a long time, but I have a feeling he's still part of all this shit, but we don't know, so we'll keep away from right now. But yeah, I would think that he probably wouldn't give a shit about those people, unless, of course, they started to give a shit. And I don't think it. I think people like you and me, he really would hate. Like right now, if he were watching the show, which will never happen, he would hate us.
Well,
especially you, Dave. But
well, I relish that. The idea. I mean, I think you're right on the money there. So the question becomes twofold, I think.
And by the way, if I may interrupt, and I'm not even joking, he would hate both of us. He might even hate me more, I don't know, but he hates you specifically. Yeah, he would hate you.
I would agree. And you know what? I've been. It's funny you should bring that
And I
up.
mean hate. I mean literally, he would
Oh,
hate
no,
you.
no, no, no. I know. I've been. One of the things that I do a little differently than others is I keep Trumpers on my page, my personal Facebook page, and I get a lot of. In fact, I'm putting together a kind of a 10-part series of why I do it, not to justify it, just
You
just
should have a collection of the interchange between
yeah, and it
you
gets
and him.
interesting to me, and there's a number of reasons. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but you see from them how they don't understand how we can be who we are. Um, the and I think that Trump, just saying you and I, so we'd be low on the totem pole, but we would definitely be there before someone who's merely posts. I mean, and of course, every one of us, and this is important, every one of us has to decide: A, are we going to fight? And B, how can we best fight knowing our strengths and weaknesses?
Right.
Okay. And there are many, many ways to do that. From outward defiance. One of the bravest men I've talked to recently is right after Trump declared that burning the flag, would be punishable by. He's a veteran, spent 20 years in the military. He went up to the White House and burned a flag. That's pretty brazen. Okay, got arrested. Case, of course, has not come to court yet. It'll be interesting to see. That may be too brazen for people. If you don't really want to get involved, but you really feel you should do something, if you have a little bit of extra money, do a little research and send it to. There are many organizations, many politicians. If you, and again, as we said before, and I think it's important, we're talking about an insurrection act, which is, all over the country. But the MAGA movement did not begin all over the country. It began on zoning boards and school boards in small towns. And so if you can do that, or if you find a candidate you really think, because remember, Jimmy Carter got his political start on the Plains, Georgia board. Zoning board,
Right, but there's
Georgia.
something different about what they. I mean, yeah, exactly. That's what they did. They worked from the grassroots up, but it's. I think there's that devious plan behind it. It wasn't just okay. We're going to try to work.
Oh no,
there's more.
If-
But they were going to do some tactical things, which were really nasty with, they say, the gerrymandering and all that kind of thing.
Well, that's it. I mean, but they had a plan. And then I start to sound like, what's the global threat of, whatever. No, but they had a plan, and you can trace it. It actually started with those who opposed FDR's. Well, you could have a previous start, but the modern era starts with.
There always was that intensity within the Republican Party that they just
Right.
hated Democrats. But now it seems like the plan has gone through completely.
Of course. And that leads us back to the Insurrection Act. Now, one question that comes up is, how do you stop it? You have to, we have to, as people, we have to convince the other people that the Insurrection Act is
So you're saying
not
social
only-
media, basically,
It's not only right. It's not only un-American. It's not necessary. Both. Now, some people, I think Portland. You brought them up. I think they're doing a fantastic job. Kudos to Portland. If you notice, they're not all, but many of them are putting on these outrageous costumes,
Right.
and dancing around. And think about this. Any logical person, you see the mistress of dark, Kristi Noem, up way on this roof, right, looking down, and she's claiming, I'm, keeping an eye on the insurrection. It was a dancing person in a frog suit, or, they're doing that great. So they're doing it tremendously, because I think that is one of the most effective tactics. Sarcasm, ridicule.
Right.
Donald Trump cannot take that. Okay. And remember,
And
ladies
that's his
gentlemen,
ball game too.
Yeah. And our job is to make his blood pressure so high that he can't function. That's
Right.
that's
I
what we
think
need
that's
to do.
a legitimate answer to what needs to be done,
Yeah.
or at least give
Yeah.
us a chance.
Now, that's true. I think. And the other thing is, what do we do if we can't stop it? Well, I would say to that, and I'm not putting it off, I really think first we need to just focus on stopping it. It's sort of the argument we get a lot down here. I don't know, Brian, if you get it where you are. But we'll be talking, down here. Well, yeah, but if we get rid of Trump, then there's Vance, and then it would be
Right.
Vance and Mike Johnson.
Yeah, there's a
I,
whole line of people. We know that.
I don't care.
You got to start winning.
One at a time, the head of the snake, the next head, the next head, the next head. You were in the forefront of this, and I think we need to bring it up every time, is the fact that, well, people say midterms. Well, two things. If we have the midterms and if they're fair. I don't think we need, but every show, we've now taken care of that. Because I do think that both those questions are valid. I might have dismissed them when Trump first came in, but now I think they are both extremely valid questions. But again, in my way of thinking, they're down the road. Right now, it's what can we do to stop Donald Trump from doing the things like this list that he does every day. Mm-hmm. So with the Insurrection Act, I think people should do the following. I think beginning tonight, spread the word if it's out there. Look it up. Make sure you understand it. That's number one. Number two, when you understand it, you will see why it should not be invoked. And it doesn't really help. I mean, you mentioned it, but it's true. It doesn't really help to say, well, it should have been invoked on. No, forget that. I think one of the things that I'm seeing a little bit that concerns me is we're talking about the past too much. It doesn't matter. We live in a society where today is not as influenced by yesterday as it used to be. And Trump, of course, only thinks in the moment. And I've kind of come up with this thing like he only thinks about 6 inches in front of him. He doesn't have 6 inches anywhere in his body except his stomach. But if he had that's what he sees.
Right.
So, and then third thing is after you've looked it up, after you understand it, digested it, figure out, because we need all the thoughts we can get, figure out a way you could work against it, your group could work against it, and the nation could work against it. There may be some 19-year-old or 14-year-old or an 87-year-old somewhere in America tonight who could really come up with this answer. And we need to get that, if that's so, we need to get it out there. So I think my final thought on the Insurrection Act is it is not necessary. It is not needed. However, Trump will do everything he can to bring it to bear. And he has his little boys like little tiny Mike Johnson out there saying that everyone, in essence, what Mike Johnson is saying is everyone who participates in the No Kings rally next Saturday, almost a week from today, is a terrorist and part of Antifa or worse. And therefore, we may need the Insurrection Act on that based alone. Which one do you want to go to next? Unless you have anything else to say.
No, it's fine. No, that's fine. The Insurrection Act. You know what? Let's go to weaponizing the courts and the DOJ. I think that's fine.
Okay. So your thoughts.
That tails up. Well, yeah. I mean, for example, it was just revolting to watch Pam Bondi make personal attacks on people, on every individual. Ask her a question. You could see she had these taped notes to her folders, and she had a stock thing. And this is what they told her to do. Is basic. I mean, it had to be. I mean, this is exactly what they told her to do. You'll get a question that you won't be able to answer, at least not truthfully. So what you do is you attack them personally, because this is not for you and for me. Again, this is for the third that you always talk about, Dave. And as long as you cater to the third, and as long as you talk about those others who don't do anything, and as long as we're in power, we stay in power. And that is the formula. So that was revolting. And then, as you said, John Bolton. Now, I'm not a big fan of John Bolton, only to the extent that, he didn't fall off the cliff. He knew what Trump was doing was illegal and wrong. And now they're going after him like they're going after Comey. And they won't be the last ones. You'll see others too eventually. But I mean, at the very least, they're going to have to pay court costs and things like that, which makes it very, very difficult. Trump doesn't have to worry about it. He's not going to pay for anything. All the tariffs that you have to pay, he'll be using that. So we're actually paying in our taxes and in the tariffs for that kind of bullshit. But yeah, I think that that's a real problem because, as you know, if Biden had talked with Merrick Garland, that would have been it. And it would have taken hold in the conservative media, and everybody would have said, this is illegal. Look what you have. This is a dictator. And now what do you have? You have everything that they deny. So we know they're hypocritical. And there's no sense even discussing it because we know that they are hypocrites. But this is extremely dangerous because what you essentially have is you've created basically almost like an SS at that level of government. And
Yeah, I'd like to
it's
jump in there
frightening.
just a minute. I think you just pointed something at that level. I mean, I think we're seeing two levels of Nazi parallels. One is ICE and the SS, right? I mean, they are in all ways very similar to the SS as the stormtroopers, right?
Right.
But then you've got this thing that you were just pointing out, Brian, this idea of weaponizing. Well, what you have there is a whole bunch of legal people who, what Trump does, and he's done it, I think, 3 times now, he demands somebody be indicted. The prosecutor in charge of, in doing that, reach back from that, from people on the other side, and that's fine because, of course, they think they're the saving America. You know, they're the patriots. So we look at that, and then this idea, you get the idea of just picking who you want to go after and going after it. And that is, you know, as you say, that's very frightening. And this is one of the things that
Hold on a second, Dave. Apparently, Gary's pointed out I left out the S after the A in dictator.
Oh, God. What'd you do now, Brian?
Dictaster. Dictaster? Is that it?
I think so.
Now, we're getting a little bit sorted here, so let's keep working.
That's okay. We're not PG and we're not for kids only. So as we get back and look at what we were talking about,
Although we were talking about Philip Dick before the show.
well, that's true, Philip K. Dick. But the idea of Trump, when you follow now, we've done 2 of these, you begin to see a pattern. And I mean, the pattern's so obvious, it doesn't even, but it's, I am the end all, be all, and the it. I decide everything. And so this is the way it will be.
Right.
There's, you know, now let's get to that third point, and then I want to return to something around here. But the third point was, you know, what do you think about, what was the third point? I don't even know, Brian. Do you
The
remember?
third, well, we were talking about the air base, if you want to go into the air
And
base.
that's what, yeah, okay.
And
So
that's
what did
an
you-
important one too. They were all 3 important, but and I could have easily chosen that one as the first one because usually I will choose that as the first. But the other ones are so important too that we had to move.
Well,
we
I think-
could say
I
a
think-
lot about the Qatar air base.
I think I liked your, you know, your arrangement of the 3 for this reason. I think you chose exactly the order in which they pose a threat to every American.
Right.
Right. So, but the airbase, were you surprised about that? What did, I mean, I have to
No,
admit,
I was actually, Dave, quite frankly, you know, because you're always thinking quid pro quo. I mean,
Right.
we know that we give them support if they're under attack by the Iranians. But the fact that they're putting the base there, that is the quid pro quo. And he had to do something. So whether it was the base or something else, but that's a real problem. And that gives Qatar a lot of power because, you know, they can't be reached by anybody either because they're being protected, you know. And
Well,
yet they
there-
can
there's
still
a-
fly in and
there-
out. But I don't want them
Yeah.
flying in and out over New Jersey skies, and I'm sure you don't want them over Virginian skies.
No, and I think you raised a point that some people miss. Okay, if they have a base there, right? So a lot of people are upset. They shouldn't be a foreign base. Okay, that's one point, and I think that's a valid point. But it's like everything else. If it was a Canadian base, I'm okay with it, right?
Right, they're
That'd
not a
be a foreign
democracy. They're a theocracy.
But you've got Qatar, which is also, we know, has funded Islamic terrorists in the past.
Right.
Okay. Now, you know, you get into that great debate of, oh, well, they have to do it to bullshit. All it is why it's there. So think about this. What about if Qatar and Iran go to war? Does Iran come and try to take out the base of Qatar in America? And then what do we? I mean, it's the most ridiculous kind of
Well,
thing
just
to
the
say.
fact that they are here, that is disturbing.
Yeah, that. But I'm going to move past
That's
that.
not a democratic country anyway. And if you're not a democratic country, first of all, you shouldn't even be on our bases anyway, in our land.
Right.
But the fact that that's there,
Yeah, and I think that is important. But I think it's even a lot of people just stop there. But you have to look at the potential dangers for the United States. And I think the dangers are greater, not of Qatar launching. Or I'm going to call them Qatar. It's easier. So not of Qatar launching some attack, but they are going to war with another with their base here. What happens then?
and what happens if there are mistakes just in general training with their, they have to keep flying these aircraft,
And
correct?
and yes, and do you know that there are more nuclear weapons in South Dakota than any other state in America?
Yes, I do know. I knew that either Dakotas, yes.
Yeah, yeah, South Dakota. So
North
not
Dakota
only-
has them too. I know that for sure.
Yes, and it makes sense. Okay, you don't want
And the Russians are going to go after them. I mean, they know where those places are, so
Oh, yeah.
some may get out, but most of
What
those will
I'm
be
saying-
hit.
But just think about it. I mean, if you're running exercises and something, it's just not a good idea. Then on top of that, if it smells badly, it probably is bad. And the fact that Qatar gave Donald Trump
A $400 billion
a
aircraft.
multi-million-dollar aircraft. But what I liked about that, there are two things that I found out about that, researching that. Number one, to get that airborne and the way they want it, it's going to cost almost $1 billion. So it was a
And it won't be their technology that's doing it.
No, and secondly, the fact that Donald Trump is going to keep it after it's done. That's in the plan. So, okay, so we get this airport. Now, it gets even deeper. There are talks going on as we speak about the Trump business working to put up, fancy places in Qatar. So, of course, you said quid pro quid. It is. But what happens as you look at Trump and where we are now, he breaks rules so much. Every day, every moment of the day.
Right.
It's
all criminal. It's all lies. And
It's-
it's acceptable to these people.
And it
You
is.
had the post today, by the way. It was great that you posted somebody else's post about the fact that these people, they're not surprised that they voted. We're not surprised the way they voted because these are people who like liars. They like cheaters. They cheat on their taxes, whatever.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I think again about this, there's another insidious thing that's going on, and this is just human nature, and as it gets worse and worse and worse, but there's more of it. It gets more like I can't fight it all. I can't fight it all, and that's another fallacy that I'd like to stress as I go around D.C. talking and doing that kind of stuff, is to say, no, you can't do it all, but pick something. Pick something. I got it, Marty's thing. Absolutely. Well, and then, yeah, of course. That's the thing. But Brian, you said it before. I don't expect any kind of consistent thinking from MAGA. It's asking them to do more than they could do. It's the whataboutism, that they're. Of course, they don't. But
My question to you, Dave, is that again, and I mentioned this with like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We talked just about Qatar. What happens when there's a mistake, when you don't have the expertise because you've gotten rid of the expertise, when there is a major mistake in this country, whether it's
Brian,
a spill or what's
I'm
going
gonna
to be
give you-
done? It's going to
I'm gonna
happen
give you-
eventually. They do happen.
Here's what I'm going to say to you, Brian. This is not going to help you sleep tonight. It's not a question of if it happens, it's when it happens. It is going to happen. You cannot have idiots running the
Like
government.
COVID. He screwed up COVID. So it
you
doesn't matter
can't-
what it is, he fucks it up.
But
He's the quicker fucker-upper.
The difference between then and now, you had medical experts. Now those medical experts have been dismissed. So if you think, and I don't mean you, Brian, I'm talking about the collective. You think COVID was bad? Wait till the next one. If you think Katrina was bad, wait till the next one.
You think 3 Mile Island was bad?
Wait till the next one.
And that one's
And-
unforgiving because that could be like Chernobyl,
Well, and we know. look,
And how's he going to get out of that? It's kind of like, I don't know what
it
movie it
doesn't
was,
matter.
Raising
It
Arizona, something like
doesn't.
that.
It
You know,
doesn't
like
matter.
it's good to have
He
irradiated
doesn't
bodies.
have. He only cares about how it affects him. He doesn't care about anything else. So, in other words, he will just lie his way out of it in his mind. Now, I know this would never happen, but I'd really like to have a talk with Mr. Trump about 3 a.m. in the morning and say, do you ever think about what you do? Which, of course, he would lie about that, too.
Right.
But, no. So I think, and now, do we run and just say, okay, the world's going to end because Trump's, no, you continue to fight. But I do think that it'll be too late for many people. And they, wherever this accident or whatever happens, it will be too late. Here's one for you, Brian. Kind
Okay.
of related before we move off this. People were talking about this today, a group of us. Do you think he will take penal actions against Norway over their, because he is so dumb. Think about this. He doesn't understand the prize is given in Oslo, Norway. But not Norwegians are the only people who vote on it. It's not the country. It's a place. I've been to that. I've been to where the Nobel Prize is given, and it's a place, right? But people from all over the world are involved in that. But do you think he will do? And because we were back and forth on it, do you think he will do something against Norway, or you think
Well, he's
that's
vindictive. I mean, look, he's taking action against us, so why wouldn't he? I think anybody who was a threat to him is, yes, there will be some action, some way, somehow. And it's what's a country of 4 million people. I mean, that's it. But
Yeah, I mean, again, it is astonishing to me, maybe because I'm an educator. And look, as an educator, you deal with some students who really have severe learning difficulties. Now, I'm not talking about the ones in the class. I'm talking about the ones who aren't, and there are many types. But his lack of knowledge, his lack of understanding, Donald Trump's, is astonishing.
yes,
And the fact that he acknowledges by his speeches and his talk that he doesn't know it. And even worse is he is both stupid and ignorant. Ignorant is that you in ignorance, it really means you don't know. But ignorance can also apply, I want to get out, I want to find out. He does not care. I mean, when he says, everything, he says, I know more about this than everybody else. Well, you may know more, Mr. Trump, about having sex with 13-year-olds than I do.
right.
But there's a lot of places where I know more than you, and there's certainly billions of places where people know more than you, the expert. Another question, Brian, came up today in our roving discussions or rambling discussions down here. Do you really think the release of the Epstein files will mean anything, if indeed they are ever released?
Not under the Trump administration. And like, I mean, even if let's take it one step further. Let's suppose you're alluding to the idea that even if he did have sex with 13-year-old girls or was around them and his name is on the list, does it matter to those people? Because there's that, and this is the worry we have for us, the extreme hatred for us, which means they will go to they'll push the button on us. They would, these very people that you're holding as friends on Facebook.
Well,
we don't know what they would do with you. But
Brian, you got to understand. In my case, I don't care. I mean, I'm not. I just want to see what they say. I enjoy that.
No, I understand. I understand that.
And I wouldn't want it to true that I'm trying to win them.
But
what I'm saying is, I think with every utterance that they make, they prove why they're not worth it, and they prove why Donald Trump is a bad president.
Yeah, but there's a big problem, though. Those are the people who put them in power, and they have the power, and you know that.
I know.
So do we have to handle them the same way we handle Trump right now? We were talking about earlier in the show.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. So one way to handle Trump, and it's a good analogy there. One way to handle Trump is just have nothing to do with him, right? We can't do that. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel the same way about Trump's supporters. You can't just let them stay. You got to come after them, but you have to come after them in a way that allows you to keep whatever standards you have. And I think they do enough to eliminate themselves, and eventually maybe they'll drop off. One of the major ones did finally drop off because he was getting blasted by so many others. So yeah, I mean that because that's back to the Epstein files where we were. Again, so the question is, I think for all of us, is A, will they be released? So let's start there. A, do you think during the Trump administration the Epstein files will
There'll
ever
be
be
no
released?
more release than they're going to send in the troops for January 6th. It's not going to happen. Why would anything happen if it didn't happen on January 6th? Nothing's going to happen.
I agree. The only thing I would say is if they did, it would not be the Epstein files. It would be the Epstein
Right.
files
I mean,
as viewed and approved by Donald Trump.
and in this case, Dave, okay, your speculation, we see a lot of misinformation that cannot be proved on Facebook.
Right.
But in this case, just like I posted something about Fordham University where it showed that Trump had a GPA of like 1.28 or something like that. And somebody rightfully said, Fordham has denied this. But, there's a certain truth in it, even though it's not true at all. Because you can't get the truth, but it's what you see and you feel it, and you don't really even need to know the facts because you know that the man's a cheat.
I know. Yeah, I was one of the people.
That's why I left them on there, by the way.
That's fine. Again, there's no right or wrong with that. I just said, fair is fair. But then I went into a whole thing of why just what you said, why it makes sense and why people believe it. Because I think 1.28 might be a little bit high for his QI.
Right.
Okay. But, it unfortunately, there is a lot of stuff. Now, and again, it's intent. I think your intent or anyone's intent who posted that was to try to help people understand that Trump is not a good president. Now, when you do what Kristi Noem said, which I think gets, if we get a lie bigger than this, I don't even know what I'm going to say. I might have to just be silent for 6 months. Kristi Noem said, and I don't know if you saw that, she said, we found the girlfriend of one of the big time people in Antifa. Kristi, listen, when you're not shooting dogs and when you're not having an adulterous affair with Corey, do some research, please, darling, and look and find out that Antifa is not an organization.
And they know that. They know that.
I know that.
But they've made that.
But what I'm saying is, okay, I agree. But I'm just telling her something to do. She won't. Again, she won't. But the fact that, I mean, and one of the things I say to these Trumpers from time to time, said, if I find something, I say, just please, don't insult your intelligence and mine by saying whatever it is. And,
and by the way, I know some people, well, I don't want to say where or when or who, but I know people who actually believe that shit.
What shit would that be, Brian?
That Antifa is
no. Oh, well, yeah. Because
threat to our government.
But again, you're talking about, like, we're getting back here kind of that 1.28 thing that made the circulation this week.
Right.
But that's one thing. But to come out like they did, and I don't know if you saw, I watched the video, they had a riot in Portland, but there was a problem. In that riot, there were palm trees. Now, I don't know everything about Portland, right? But I don't think there exists in Portland a palm tree anywhere to be seen.
No, not in this.
And
at
so
this point in time.
This was a try to convince people of an untruth. There was another one released about another, I think it was Chicago, and the fact was it happened in a South American or Central American country, and you could even see it said Policia. Now, I don't think the police in Chicago ride around with Policia on their. So we have this stuff, we just have this continuation. Now, it takes a lot to really astound me. And I've been astounded sometimes in this Trump thing, I got to admit. But this past couple weeks, something happened that I wouldn't believe no matter what. Mm-hmm. And that is, in 1 week's time, I found myself agreeing with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer. That's almost as fanciful as I left my wife and married Stormy Daniels. There's about a much chance of that being true, and yet it was true. Now the question becomes, why? What did they do? Well, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been consistent for almost a month now about release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. Then she came out with a statement that the Republicans have enough votes in the Senate, they could call the government back, and people are getting hurt. And then the another thing, excuse me, that she said is basically that we're not doing our job for the people, meaning MAGA Republicans. Loomer came out with a guitar situation and said, this is paraphrasing, this is a bridge too far. I can't support this. And she said, which is the worst thing that could happen, I guess, in her world, I don't think I'll vote in 26.
Bullshit.
I know. But here's the thing, Brian. Every time there's trouble in paradise, MAGA paradise, that's good for us.
Right.
Every single time. Now, people, before we jump on the bandwagon, I learned this in Cuba when I was there from a Cuban, well, he's anti-Castro, so he was kind of an underground radical. And we're talking about something, and he said, something about enemy, and this is, oh, no, Americans say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. He said, no, senor, that's not it. He said, the enemy of your enemy is your frenemy. And I love that. You take what you can get, but understand, we don't make saints of these people. The other thing, and these are I'm going early to you feel more optimistic or less optimistic. The other thing that I thought was very positive this week is Joe Rogan and two other big time MAGA podcast voicers came out against Trump. And a couple of them said, one said, I'm going to stay away from politics. I didn't understand it. I shouldn't. I don't understand it. I shouldn't, do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he did, and now he has regrets that I didn't. He said I shouldn't have backed Trump. And Rogan still has tremendous power. I would say that Rogan's power is as great on the right as Stearns is on the left, and maybe greater.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So anytime he comes out against Donald Trump, there'll be a few peeled off. Now, as somebody had to burst my bubble and say, but that's immaterial because Trump is there now. And there's some truth to that. But
right.
No, as he begins to see his support ebb, then other people come. And the key thing we have to try to convince Republicans of, and this is, and having these people come out this way, is the day they're convinced that if they back Donald Trump, they themselves will not be reelected, is the day that they will give up Donald Trump. They will do that. Well, as these numbers dwindle, the Trump supporters, will it get to that point? And will they believe it? And look, the politicians know that Donald Trump is a zero. There's not a one of them that really.
Well, that's why they'll lie for him, because they know that he's.
Until, Brian, yes, you're absolutely right. Until the point that it would cost them their job. They will not lie. They will not lie for him if they're going to lose the election. They will not.
And why is that job that important, to debase yourself, to lie? I mean, what does that say about? It says exactly what you posted today on Facebook.
I know.
This is the lack of character, and these people get positions. They're just fucking slime.
I would say this, and again, I would open this up to anybody to debate me. I mean, because I'm not 100% certain, so I'm throwing it out more to try to solidify my own position. I would say it's very hard to be a politician and be 100% moral. It really is. The very thing that you have to get elected means that and to get elected, you have to have money and you have to have votes. Now, corruption is a relative thing. I'm not saying you have to be as corrupt as Donald Trump.
Right.
I'm not saying, one of my fervent hopes is there, and these threats are made, they're not going to happen, but Grindr, which is what would you say, a dating service for gay men and women. have there are people who have come out and said, if you start doing this trans thing and keep this up, we're going to release the name of every politician in America who has posted with us. And two names that really come up a lot. One would be the senator from South Carolina, and the other would be Little Mikey Johnson. Now, I'm not intimating that they are. I'm just saying their names come up a lot. So would that stop someone? I don't think so right now, because they say, oh, that's somebody else. That wasn't me. But so they can't get to them that way. They have no shame. And why is it so important to them? Power is an aphrodisiac. And there are politicians who will tell you, it's better than sex. Because there are a certain kind of person who would go in. Would you
Can you repeat that? What's better than sex? Okay, kind of missed
power. Power. For some people,
maybe for some people it is. Okay, I mean,
yeah, I'm not even saying for the norm. But so let me ask you a question: would you run for political office?
No, unless I knew that I could actually create some change. If we were desperate, I would do it. Yes, I would do it. But I know me. First of all, I'm 65, so I know that I have a lot less left in my life. And I was never, like my father, I was never interested in money. I mean, I don't turn it away, but when we had
Brian,
negotiations for salary increases, I wasn't worried too much about that shit.
We'll come back to that. But would you agree? Say you're not. You just said I'm not that interested in money, and I think that's great. So would you agree in front of this audience tonight that you will send me all your credit cards at the end of this show, which I will then...
But I am very, very careful with my money because I don't make a lot.
No. But you know what? When you say, and I will answer my question I posed to you, I would not under any circumstances would I run or serve as an office. I just know myself too well. It wouldn't be good for me. It wouldn't be good for my family, and it wouldn't be good
right.
For
it causes a lot of heartache.
My role is the outsider. I learned that Mr. Peacock and I went to high school together, Gary and I. So we've known each other a long time. But I learned that in high school, I really liked being around power, not to be around it, but to figure it out and try to, what should I say? Try to understand.
Well, power is an aphrodisiac, and I can see why people want it. But in terms of, I think that, and some psychologists say this, is that the strive for power is actually has sexual connotations to it. And since, let's face it, there is no better feeling than that. I'm talking about the power. At least in my opinion, I don't know. I'm just the average guy.
Okay, an athlete. Do you think they'd rather have sex or win the Super Bowl?
I mean, if it's just from one event of it, no. But if they knew that it was going to happen every day for the rest of your life and you enjoy, why not? Who cares about scoring the touchdown? Feeling good is feeling good.
Oh my man.
Maybe I'm wrong. I just
no.
I do like
wrong.
nice sensations. It's
I'm just
different.
saying. I think there are people, as important as sex is, and I'm not dismissing it in any way. I think there are people who have other highs. Certainly, a heroin junkie kind of gives up on sex because the drug is more important. And I think I think power is a drug. I think winning is so you're talking about a substitution, if you will.
Yeah, but the drive is, like I said, I think that all that power. Again, I don't know, but I have read with Carl Jung.
Right.
That's such an unconscious, and sometimes conscious, obviously, but such an unconscious, powerful. It is the most powerful drive.
All I'm going to ask you is something I would ask everyone else: is always make sure when you're making a statement, you're not talking about yourself. That's all.
Okay. Look, I know that not everybody, but I think most individuals, have that unconscious
I'm not Italian.
drive that is it's unfucking believable. It's so difficult. You try to repress that, bad things are going to happen. Well, that I can tell you.
I would say that might be well the case, and we're
not having a sort of conversation here. We're having a legitimate conversation.
Oh, no. Well, I don't care about. Today I was talking to a good Catholic friend, and I like what the Pope is saying right now. because he's saying the things that I tend to agree with. But he is now under fire. You're talking about sex and all this. He is now under some fire from his enemies about he didn't quickly move, I guess, when he was in Peru to deal with pedophile priests. So, and I think when you're talking about, abnormal or whatever, I think that's part of the problem. I think it's very hard, I think, to abstain from that. What I do think, and what they would say, is that they put Jesus or God ahead of that. Yeah, but then it also comes to yours. Then problems arise from that. Brian never has even been in a church. Why the hell are we bringing him up?
No, I'm the least religious guy. That's. And by the way, I think what we're talking about is the closest thing to heaven. So you just, if I may add that.
No.
You find out something better than that, Dave. You tell me, okay, and then I'll
well, I haven't for me.
You haven't, right? That's two for two now, okay?
No, I'm saying, but where I think I fall, your logic is you can't for others, and I
certainly, I'm just talking in general, right?
No, I know, but I think and it may be a sublimation of and a lot of times power is an aphrodisiac in terms of sex too. Do you really think Donald Trump would have had as much sex if he didn't have as much money as he does?
Of course he wouldn't. That's part of it, right? That's part of it.
Of course he would.
It got him that.
Do you really think the Super Bowl champion wide receiver would have 752 women wanting to sleep with him? But I do see some things that, and we were talking about politicians, and you were saying how. I think the how is that they just lose sight. All they care about is winning, because that's how they define themselves.
Right.
And there is, before we dismiss all of that, there is this point. What good is a politician if they don't get elected? Interesting. Now, I would argue today that you could be just as effective being an outsider, but you still wouldn't get your laws passed. So, it's just an area that I think what we can agree on, though, or what I hope all of us can agree on, is the fact that no matter what, Donald Trump is not the person you want to be president of the United States. And that goes to every facet. Whether you're talking about the business facet, whether you're talking about the bring the country together facet, whether you're talking about the legal facet, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to start this roll down, as I said before, and I'm going to go first. Usually you go first. So I'm going to say tonight, based solely on the discord I saw this week, despite all the things Trump did, the discord I saw with Loomer, with Green, with Rogan, with some others. When I see the Democrats now getting a little bit of a spine, but I will leave it at this. Next Sunday, I will make a important answer to that, because a lot of that, I want to look at what happens on October 18th.
All right.
And I'm not saying that'll be definitive, but I think that will show a couple of things. Number one, it will show how much people are willing to go out and say no to Trump.
This is it, right?
And the second thing is it may make them tip their hand about how quickly, and it could be the 18th, they put the Insurrection Act in. So tonight I'm going to be optimistic, reserving for next week a more definitive answer. What say you, Brian?
Like one of the which economist said this, but it's a famous quote, which I just for some reason can't remember the name. Is it, in the long run, we're all dead, and that's just my opinion as relating to this situation. Even if we get look today, we lost. What is it? Was it today or no? It was yesterday. We lost. Who played Annie Hall?
Yeah, Diane Keaton.
Diane Keaton, right? Wonderful actors, and they never saw the resolution, and we keep. It's what I call the in the meantime. We are in the meantime, Dave, and yeah, we may get to that arc that MLK talked about, but realistically, in the meantime, we're not getting it. I'm not saying give up. I'm just saying.
No, I know.
It's just a question of how much we're going to deal with, and we have to put pain in them too, because they talk about Democrats being weak, and Ronnie brought this up to me, I think this morning. She said, we're not weak as Democrats because we have put up with so much. I mean, it's just every day is just this nonsense, and you have to have a certain steeling of your body and your mind against this because it can drive you insane. And so many of us are depressed over this. So it's not that we're weak. We're lacking the tools at this point to effectively deal with it. And I am very negative about this right now until I think they're going to have to destroy themselves somehow. You mentioned like green and whatnot. I don't know that that's enough. I don't think the energy's there yet. I think we need a catastrophe like you alluded to.
Well, I will say this again, reiterate what I said.
Keynes, thank you, Marty. Yeah.
When it comes to political support for Donald Trump, the day a politician realizes that defending Donald Trump will take away my ability to win the race is the day that we'll begin. And that's what I'm kind of hoping for with the Greens, that they're planting a seed too early yet. The polls, of course, dismissed as, this, that, and the other. Now, last question for you. Which bothered you more, this week in politics, or the fact that in one day the Eagles lost, which means probably out of the Super Bowl, the Phillies, and I really feel sorry for the pitcher. I really do. I mean, there's none of this.
I knew he was the wrong guy to bring in anyway. He's always had issues.
And the Flyers lose their opener. So right. Which was worse? The week in politics or the week in Philadelphia sports?
All right, well, there you go with the unconscious. The unconscious mind, again, I'm talking like I'm a psychiatrist, right. But the unconscious mind doesn't really know much difference between reality and fantasy. Just like, for example, when you go into dream state, you believe that you're flying. So the actual emotional pull that I had with the Eagles and the Phillies, Flyers I don't care about, it was just the first game, it just added something to it. Is really not much of a different feel from we're in this kind of bullshit. It's just this malaise that hits you, and so the mind doesn't know. It doesn't. In fact, it doesn't even think in terms of words. It just hears the word and it attaches, a picture or something. So when we say that the Phillies lost and the Eagles lost, and then what is worth for Trump, it all becomes. I know what's more important. I mean, that's just.
Oh no, that wasn't the.
I know, and I know what you meant. But I think in terms of my brain, and I'm talking about the unconscious brain, we're talking now using this, right. the frontal cortex, but there's so much going on, which again relates to our conversation about power and sex and this kind of thing,
Right.
And I think that's that unconscious thing. And essentially, and this is what, forget again, who's the one that used to write for the Huffington Post, age. Oh no. Dowd, Maureen Dowd. Maureen Dowd said this.
The New York Times.
Maureen Dowd from the New York, right? Maureen Dowd, and she said it appropriately. He is operating from the id.
Oh,
Trump.
Absolutely.
And that, although there's no one place in the brain that we can say that is the id, but it really is the unconscious part that it feels its way through things and it reacts to things. It's like, this hits me, I react this way. And Maureen Dowd, she hit it perfectly. She hit it perfectly. And we've got a president who's operating out of the id. And these bastards that, are going to endorse his behavior, they are showing that's the real weakness. They're actually very weak because they fear the very man that they're defending. And that's weird. It's like saying you love your father, even though he's beating the shit out of you, and he's a beater, but you'll accept it.
Getting back to something you talked to earlier about bullies, it always amazed me watching how the bully would get a group around him, right? Usually they were males. And what it would be is, I think it's the same thing with these. They're afraid of Trump taking it out on them, right? Mm-hmm. Just like the group that hung out with the bullies, or it'll do that. I think Gary, my good friend Gary, there was alluding to the fact that we had not mentioned the Nobel Prize, and Jeff said about, which is a nice spin, the Nobel Prize didn't deserve Trump.
Well, you alluded to it when you talk about Norway.
Oh no! I just wanted for Gary. So Nobel Prize. I said, okay, now.
Oh, by the way, can I mention that the northernmost hotel. There's a Radisson in Svalbard, Norway. It's literally only like 1,200 kilometers from the North Pole, but it's actually a beautiful hotel. If there's any place I would want to go, I was watching this like video of like Magingo Island in Lake Victoria, and there's like 500 people on this island made of rock. It just flies everywhere. And then all of a sudden there's this 5-star Radisson motel way up north with polar bears. I would actually go there. I would never go to Magingo Island.
Brian, do you know how many people would like you to go there? I mean,
To what, Magingo Island? Or I will not go to Magingo Island, no.
Both. No, just take out a fundraiser. You'll see, GoFundMe. Last thing. Thank you, everyone. I was reading the comments, and what I like is I like talking to Brian, okay? It's our only chance that we really do it. We used to do this all the time. And in this way, it's a little different. But I really like the fact that the listeners, well, I guess you say viewer listeners, listening viewers, whatever, talk to each other. And I was telling someone that this week. I said, it took me a little bit of a time. Not that I have a huge ego. I have a very big one, but I don't think huge is actually it. And when we first started doing this, Brian, I'd never done it before in this way, right? And I'm starting to think, wait a minute, these people aren't paying attention. But that's not what's important, okay? Again, that's letting your ego. It's important that this thing is a place where people can come on Sunday nights and express their views. And don't ever think that Brian will not give in, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, he did not have that hat on. And you would have suffered for over an hour. Oh, my God! Look at that. Come on. All right, get out.
Hey, it's a tribute to Yul Brynner, okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone.
I guess
I guess that's it. See you, folks. It's wonderful talking. Dave,